you that have stayed, I'm Scott Marcus. I'm a senior fellow here at Bruegel. I'll be moderating this panel. And this panel is a special treat for you and a pleasure and an honor for me. We have not one, but two former EU commissioners, both of whom had responsibility for employment. And both of them have had illustrious careers doing other things before and since. National ministries, corporate boards, distinguished academic postings. So these are people with an extraordinary depth and breadth of experience that deals specifically with the topics that we have for today. Now, Anna Diamantopoulo has asked to make some introductory remarks. If you could take, let's say, about 10 minutes on those.
Yes.
And after that, Laszlo Andor will respond and will provide any comments that he has on the day as a whole. And then we open up, as always, to questions from the floor and also from the virtual floor, in case any of you have out there in Radio Land have been asleep for the day. We take questions on Slido, slido.com, using the hashtag of future of work, one word. So we'll be welcoming questions for the second part, but for now, Anna, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this invitation. And it was really a nice experience because it was a very rich debate on all issues. And what I will try to do now is not to repeat anything from which has been said, because more or less I believe that we have said everything. Now, I'm starting from the title of the conference, which is The Future Work and the Inclusive Growth. And I think we have to see all these words. When we talk about inclusive growth, of course, we mean welfare state, we mean social protection. There is no other way to have inclusive growth. So what kind of social protection and welfare state in this new era? About future of work, I think future of work, when we talk about the future of work, it's not just AI or digital works, or the twin, as you have referred to them. And I would like to see the future of work through three lenses. The first one is the geopolitical and economic disruptions. The second one is the megatrends commanding our era. And the third one is workers themselves, because they are different than they were in the past. Now, very briefly, when we talk about geopolitical and economic disruptions, we know very well what we mean. It is a new world. There are great powers which decline, which rise. We have a destruction in the supply chain. We have pandemics, energy crisis, everything. But all these changes are bringing severe challenges to competitiveness of Europe's products and services. We know that in the United States, protectionism is in the pipeline. We know that the Green Deal has created big problems in our companies in terms of competitiveness. So who is affected in the first place? The European businesses. What are the consequences? Many times they're unattractive salaries. And these unattractive salaries are for people who used to live in very generous welfare states comparing with other parts of the world. So this status, along with the demographic issue, with shrinking demographies almost in all member states, are bringing huge labor force shortages, as it has been seen in many countries. And I think it is very interesting to see EURES and see what kind of professions have the problems. The first one in all countries, and more than 33%, it is the bricklayers. So we don't have bricklayers in Europe. And not only that, there are more than 14 concrete professions that we don't have workers. And there are three main areas. It is construction, it is the health and care, and it is the software. It is the digital era. So all this situation creates new cases, new circumstances, new bases for the future of work and what we expect from that. Now, the second lens is the mega trends. The last 1.5 years, I was chairing a group, a high-level group in Europe, and we presented a report on the reform of the welfare state. So what we did was to take to identify the 4 mega trends which have an impact in labor market and an impact in the social protection. Which were these 4 mega trends? In Europe, of course, it is a shrinking demographic, changing world of work. We discussed a lot for that today. Digitalization and climate crisis and green transition. So what we did, and you can see the report, you can find the report in the Employment DG, we worked with civil society, we worked with OECD, with all European agencies, we had a lot of data, and we presented what is the impact in the welfare state, in the social protection issue, and what is the impact on the workers because of that. So you can see there, and with a lot of data, what is the impact of digitalization. Not only the impact is not only a problematic, a negative one. So we have positive ones, because through digitalization we could have a much better cooperation between, much better links between civilians and citizens and the social protection system. And we have some very good cases, examples in case. Regarding the AI, there are so many things which have been said. I will not repeat anything. I would like just to refer to something which I read in the newsletter of MIT last week. And in a neighborhood of San Francisco, there are nowadays, there is a large number of taxis, commercial taxis, with no drivers. And these taxis now, which becomes an everyday issue, compete with taxi drivers and with the companies. But we know very well that the robots have no problem of working hours, they have no holidays, they never become ill, etc. So what kind of competition it is? We need new ideas and new policies. Is this the taxation issue? Should we tax the robots? There are some programs on this issue, particularly in the United States. The results were not very good. But we cannot just say that we have to compete. The robots have to compete on the same job, in the same, under the same conditions. And this is a big issue. Concerning the climate change, again, green skilling, we have discussed a lot on green skilling, and the only thing I would like to add is that the projections say that 75% of the green jobs are technical jobs, so the vocational training that has been referred is extremely important, but there is something else. Because of the climate change phenomena and the phenomena like droughts in all our neighborhood, so Middle East and Africa, we're going to have a movement of people. We know that we're going to have flows of people in Europe. And these people have to be included. Whatever we do, we cannot stop everybody from coming to Europe. So these people must be included. And we need people. This is why I said in the beginning these shortages. And we need to prepare our skilling mechanisms and our training mechanisms to train these people. The demographic crisis is one of the biggest problems. We have the changes in traditional family structures and all these issues and the intra-EU mobility and migration and all this disruption in the labor market creates big challenges to sustainability and to insurance systems. and out of 27 countries, the 20 of them have problems with the insurance systems. And then it's the change of world of work, the fourth one. I said the digitalization, demographics, the climate change, and the change of work of world. It has been described in details. Again, I think we have to see that although there is no the regulation needed for working rights for the workers in platforms, and this number is rising and rising and rising, at the same time, the platform workers in Africa, particularly in Africa, create wealth and bring more people in the labor market, and particularly women. So there is a different impact in our societies and in the emerging societies, and it is important to have jobs, to have creation of jobs at that continent, for reasons that we all understand. No, now, the third lens, I said, sorry if I confuse you with the numbers, I said at the beginning that there are three lenses, and geopolitical, and then the megatrends, and now the third one is the workers. Now there are many studies, according to which the generation Z, the Z, which is the digital natives generation, are quite different. I mean, first priority is reconciliation between family life and working life. So they don't work to live, they live to work. And we can see it in McKinsey, in European Commission, we can see it in many different changes. This is why the reason that they don't really apply for jobs that they don't like. And this is because there is welfare systems where, again, as generous, and they are not always create incentives to jobs. Take care of a number. 17% of European young people from 17 to 34, they are neat, neither in work, neither in employment, nor in education. What it means? That there is a huge number of young people, in some countries it is about 25, 28%, that they do nothing. So what is the future for them? Maybe there is a low barrier to entry to employment, and then if they have some reskilling, and if the employers invest on them, things could be good. But the majority of them who have nothing to do in this age, the majority of them find themselves in an unwanted, precarious situation. And this has an impact in their life, in their pension, and then in their health when they become over 80 years old. European people do not, particularly European youth, are not interested in craft profession. We know it very well. There is a different mentality. And even more, the shrinking demographies and the need for women to take care of the older people, and in many countries of children, because there are not facilities, it is again a big issue on the gender equality. So one of the issues of the future of the work is to think very seriously of the care factor, because the carriers will be one of the most important jobs in the future. Now, about the policies. I have 2 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. The policies on the future of work and inclusive growth must be holistic. The challenges I mentioned before are intertwined. So solutions must take into account competitiveness and labor market and competitiveness. And since at the European level we're in front of big changes in the competitiveness era for energy, for protectionism, for the Green Deal, etc., we must always take into account the labor market issue. The role of the welfare state in this new era is a prerequisite for inclusive growth. And what we have done in this report, it is 160 pages, so I cannot say not even a few words, but the main idea is that we need an approach which covers the life cycle. So we start from children, then we go to young people, then we go to working population, and then to pensioners, and then to people over 80 years old. Just again a number, 90.5% of children at European level are at risk of poverty. Can we imagine what it means for the future? And again, in some countries, it is about 25%. So these children will have problems to enter the education system, to enter the labor market. They will have problem with pensions, etc. And of course, referring to the new non-standard type of works, 40% of European workers are in non-standard works. So they have less contribution in the taxation system, less contribution in the insurance pension funds, and things become worse because there are more needs because of demographic problem and less money. So there is a need of, and this is why we have given these 21 recommendations on each era of this, on each domain of our life. And we have a proposal regarding, of course, skills, which is number one. We said today, skilling and reskilling and upskilling, this is the magic word. Here I would like, again, to make one observation. We need a fundamental reform in our educational system. It has already been said, and in lifelong learning systems. But here, again, because nobody wants to be occupied by the machines, and we cannot compete with the machines. They will always be more quick than us, and more effective than us, and more precise than us. We need our human nature. And what does it mean? That in our educational and training systems, we need something that we could have under the title Aristotle and algorithm. So we need humanistic studies, we need humanistic lessons in the schools and the universities in lifelong learning, and at the same time, digital skills. But we need both. And a last point is that in skills and in reskilling policies, there are a lot of money. I think two of the speakers have already said, but the problem is not the money, it's how we use this money. Because there are fragmented approaches. There are silos of lifelong learning. So although we know that overlapping areas. So there is a need to discuss and to evaluate at the European and international level these lifelong learning systems. And there is a need of a political commitment on the highest level, on the level of the prime ministers, because it's the first priority, and of course strategic funding which is necessary. And my last point is about this strategic financing. What we said in our recommendation, the two recommendations referring to the European Commission, the European Union, is that there is a need to agree finally on minimum tax rates on capital and harmonized EU rules on capital taxation, again regarding the lowest number, because this is a huge problem in many areas of Europe. For example, I'm from Greece. The taxation in Bulgaria is about 10 points less than in Greece. You can imagine that it's very easy for companies from northern Greece to go there. But what is the result? It is against the social, the welfare state in Bulgaria, and is against the competitiveness in Greece. So we need, and this is the problem in all boundaries, we know it very well within the European Union. And the second one, which is a very controversial issue, of course, it is that we believe, and we have documented it, there is a need of golden rule for public finances, which could allow borrowing for social investment for 5 years, in order to complete the social infrastructure in Europe, because for the time being, we estimate that we need 300 billion investment in social infrastructure. So when we talk about inclusive growth, we need this kind of investment. Thank you very much.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for this very clear and very comprehensive statement. I heard a lot here about needs for improved social protection going forward, about revisions in the educational system, and I very much welcomed your comments about taxation. This is, of course, a huge challenge in a Europe that looks more like a confederation than like a federation.